Okay, so in this video, we're going to learn how to read decimal numbers correctly. Now, how would you say this decimal number? Most people would say 0.32651. Now, although that's acceptable, it's not the correct way to say the number. To say decimal numbers correctly, we're just going to review two steps. Make sure you fill out the steps in your lecture work packet. The first step is to read the decimal as a whole number first. So that means we will look at this number as 32,651. The second step will be to determine the place value of the last digit. So to do that, we will use our understanding of the place value chart. 0 is in the ones place, 3 is in the tenths place, 2 is in the hundredths place, 6 is in the thousands place, 5 is in the 10,000ths place, and the last digit, 1, is in the 100,000ths place. The last part of that step is to simply attach the place value after you read it. So we would read the number as 32,651 hundred thousandths. And so that's the correct way to read the number. How would you say the following numbers? Most people would say 0.3265 as we talked about before. But remember, the correct way would to be identify the last digit's place value and to say the number after the decimal point like a regular number. So that number is simply 3,265 10,000ths. Remember, if we read the digits after the decimal point as a regular number, it would be 326. The last digit, 6, is in the thousandths place, so this number is correctly read 326 thousandths. What about this number? Remember, we read the digits after the decimal point like a regular number. So we would say 32, and because 2 is in the hundredths place, we would simply say 32 hundredths. Now, if I was to put a dollar sign in front of that 0, we would simply say that was 32 cents. What is interesting is the word cents is synonymous with the word hundredths. The word cents is normally a prefix in the word century, which means 100 years. Or it's the suffix in the word percent, which means per hundred. So when we say 32 cents, it's very similar to saying 32 hundredths. Okay, how would you say this last number? Remember, because 3 is after the decimal point, and it's in the tenths position, we will simply say 3/10. Now, if you ever take the time to listen to an old sports video, whether it's swimming or track and field, you will often hear the commentators say the last few seconds in this manner. Now, some people may have some difficulty saying these numbers, so once again, you can utilize the place value charts that are on your work packet. Alright, so let's do this. We will put the number right into the place value chart. Notice that we can see that there's only a 7 after the decimal point. We don't need to include those zeros in front of the 7. So we know we will say 7, and we can see in the place value chart that 7 is in the thousandths place. So this number is simply read 7 thousandths. Okay, let's try the second number. If we put this number into the place value chart, we will notice that the last two digits comprise our number, so we would say 93. Because the 3, the last digit, is in the 100,000ths position, we will simply say 93 hundred thousandths. Alright, the third number. Have you figured it out yet? Remember, because we do not include the decimal point of the zeros when we say the number, we only need to say 12. And because the 2 is in the 10,000ths position, we simply say 12 10,000ths. Okay, how about this last number? Once again, if you put this into the place value chart, you can clearly see that we would say the number 618. And because the 8 is in the thousandths position, we would simply say 618 thousandths. Okay, what if we want to have a whole number part and the decimal part? Well, instead of saying point, like what you would commonly hear from most people, what we really should say is the word and. And so what we do is we say the whole number part and the decimal part. We do this with money a lot. If I had $15 and 35 cents, I don't think about saying I have $15.32. So the very fact that we normally do it with money shouldn't make it a hard thing to do it properly with the decimal numbers. Okay, so let's try to say the following decimals here. In the whole number part, we have 6. To say the decimal point, we would say and. Then the last 3 digits, we would say 218 And because the 8 is in the thousandths place, we say this number as 6 and 218 thousandths. The second number we can fill in the place value chart again. And the whole number part, we would simply say 18. The decimal point, we would say and. We will ignore the 0 and just say 21. And because the 1 is in the thousandths place, this number is correctly read 18 and 21 thousandths. This third number may look a bit challenging, but if we take our time, we can make it really easy to say. This number is 918 and 897 ten thousandths. Alright, so this last number, if we take our time, can be said very quickly. If we look at the whole number part, we have 108,462 and 56 ten thousandths. As I stated before, sometimes you may be listening to a sports commentator and they might say something like 65 3/100ths of a second left. Well, if they were to say that, would you know how to write the number correctly? In your lecture work packet, see if you can write the numbers before I do. Now, we can use the place value chart again to help us. And remember, the more you use the place value chart, the less you will need to in the future. After a while, you would remember exactly where each of the digits are located. Okay, so let's use the place value chart here. We have 65 in our whole number part. Because there's the word and, we know that's the decimal point. And because 3 is in the hundredths position, we know there must be a 0 in front of the 3 since it wasn't stated in the actual name. So this number, commonly known as 65.03, is actually 65 3/100ths. Number 2 is simply 6, and is the decimal point, and 7 is located in the tenths position. So that's how we would write that number in numerical form. 3,004 and 23 thousandths. Well, the 3,004 is before the word and, so that's our whole number part. The word and is indicating the decimal point. And because we have 23 thousandths, it means the 3 is in the thousandths place. The 2 has to be right next to the 3 in order to say 23. And we'll put a 0 in the front because it's not included in the name. So this is the correct way to write this number in numerical form. 50 and 2 ten thousandths. Well, because 50 is before the word and, we know 50 is in the whole number part. The word and indicates the decimal point. Then 2 ten thousandths means that 2 is in the 10 thousandths place position. Because there are no other numbers stated in the decimal part, we know that there will be all zeros in front of that 2. So this would be the correct way to write that number in numerical form. Okay, so remember to go ahead and do the assignment papers and the quiz, and we will continue in the next video.